Have you ever felt like you're just stuck? Like you're in a relationship time loop? You know the feeling. You're having the exact same fight with the same frustrating ending again and again. Well, today we're going to put a name to that feeling. We're going to dive into the hidden games we all play in our relationships. So, does this sound familiar? You're in the middle of a disagreement, and all of a sudden you get this weird sense of déjà vu, right? The words might be a little different this time, but the roles you're playing, the feelings, that frustrating dead end, it's exactly the same. It feels like you're just completely stuck in a loop. Well, here's the thing. What if that's not just a simple argument? What if it's actually a pattern, one that has a hidden script, its own secret rules, and a completely predictable outcome? What if you're playing a game and you don't even know it? This idea comes from a psychologist named Eric Berne, and it's really his core insight. He basically argued that a lot of our conflicts, they're not what they seem. They're actually these highly structured, unconscious patterns. And yet, they feel real, they feel super intense, but they have a hidden purpose. And that purpose is to avoid real, genuine, honest communication. Okay, so let's be super clear here. When Berne talks about a marital game, he does not mean something fun, not at all. These games are basically a substitute for real intimacy. So instead of connecting with each other in a vulnerable way, partners fall back into these pre-written roles, just playing out a script. And the script basically guarantees that no real resolution and no real closeness is ever achieved.
So what do these games actually look like in real life? I mean, Berne identified a whole bunch of them, but today we're going to unmask 3 of the most common patterns he saw in relationships.
So here's a quick look at them. You can see each of these games operates on this really destructive trade-off. A negative dynamic, something like control or blame, gets used to replace a positive one, like mutual respect or actually solving the problem. Let's break each one down. All right, first up is the corner game. And wow, this one is just incredibly frustrating if you're on the receiving end. One partner basically maneuvers the other into a trap, a total no-win situation where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. The real goal here isn't to find a solution. Nope. It's for one person to prove that the other is being unreasonable, and in doing so, they seize control of the whole conversation. Next up, courtroom. Have you ever been in a fight where it feels like you're both suddenly lawyers? You start presenting evidence from last week, you're citing past mistakes, you're literally making your case like you're arguing in front of a jury. The focus completely shifts away from solving the problem and becomes all about winning the argument and being declared right. And finally, there's a dynamic burn called Frigid Woman. And, it's an old term, but the dynamic itself can be played by any partner, regardless of gender. This is the game of emotional withdrawal. One person pulls back their affection or intimacy, which pretty predictably provokes a chase from the other person. This creates a really painful cycle, and it's a very powerful, very destructive way to control the relationship through emotional distance. Okay, I know, recognizing these patterns can feel a little heavy. It's not exactly fun stuff. But the great thing about Berne's work is that it's not just about pointing out the problems. It's about giving us a way out. So the big question is, how do you stop playing? Well, according to Berne, the power to stop these games dead in their tracks, it really just comes down to one single fundamental shift. And here it is. This is the core of his whole philosophy. The single most powerful move you can make is simply to recognize you're in a game. Just to become aware of it, to see the pattern for what it is. The second you can think to yourself, here we go, we're playing courtroom again, you've already started to break the cycle. That's it. That's the key. Because that recognition is what lets you take action. So first, you identify the pattern while it's happening. Then, number 2, you just refuse to play your part. You don't say your next scripted line. You don't take the bait. And third, you replace that old script with what Berne called an adult-to-adult response. And what that means is just responding from a place of reason and maturity, not from that knee-jerk, reactive, or wounded place. So let's look at what that actually sounds like. Your typical game response, your scripted line in the courtroom game, might be, "You always do this," right? But an adult-to-adult response sounds more like, "I feel really hurt when this happens. Can we talk about why?" Or maybe instead of just withdrawing in silence, you say, "Look, I need some space right now, but I really do want to resolve this with you later." You see the difference? It's huge. One keeps the game going, the other actually invites a real connection. And really, that's the ultimate goal here. It's about moving out of that murky world of hidden rules and these unconscious scripts and into a relationship that's actually built on a solid foundation of mutual respect, of directness, of honesty. You're aiming for that adult-to-adult connection, where you don't need to play games to feel safe or to feel in control. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Take a look at your own life, not just with partners, but with your family, maybe even your colleagues. What unspoken rules, what unconscious games might be playing out in your most important relationships? Because just being able to see them, well, that's the first and most important step to changing the game for good.